Here's the funny thing about the 2019 remake of The Lion King. It might be one of the most successful films ever to leave virtually no cultural footprint. Now think about it. The movie grossed an amazing $1.6 billion. Wow, that's a lot of money. Normally that would have been enough to propel it into becoming a monster franchise, but thanks to COVID and the basic state of the industry, it's taken over 5 years for us to get a follow-up, and it seems likely that Mufasa, The Lion King, which is a prequel to the 2019 film, is only going to gross a fraction what the last movie did. Frankly, as successful as the Jon Favreau film was, when people think The Lion King, they still think of the 1994 cartoon. As such, you have to give Disney some kudos for going a different route with the follow-up, with them entrusting the movie to Barry Jenkins, the director of Moonlight, who's never tackled anything even remotely on this scale before, and may never again, judging from some of the interviews he's given in the run-up to the release, with him seeming kind of worn down by the machinery of making a movie like this. While Mufasa sports perhaps even better CGI imagery than the last film, it can't help but feel like Jenkins, despite his stature, has delivered a relatively slight follow-up that tells a pretty familiar story about two best pals turned enemies. So this is basically the origin of Mufasa, who's voiced by Aaron Pierre. In it, as a cub, he's separated from his family and taken into a pride as an outsider, only for him to prove himself the most truly worthy heir to the throne. So Mufasa follows the same beats as something like Ben-Hur, The Ten Commandments, or even the recent Transformers 1, in that in the prequel, the young Mufasa and future Scar, who is called Taka here and voiced by Kelvin Harrison Jr., are presented as friends. You see, Mufasa as a cub is taken into the pride after being separated by his parents in a flood, and he can listen for Keith David as his father. And he's allowed to live with the pride thanks to Taka and his mother, Eshi, voiced by Thandie Newton, taking an instant liking to him, despite the fact that Taka's father, the King Obasi, voiced by Lenny James, thinks he's no good. Now, if you've seen any of the movies mentioned a little bit earlier in this review, you'll know that much of the plot probably revolves around Mufasa proving his bravery, while Taka comes up a little bit short in that department, paving the way for Mufasa's ascension to the throne and eventual betrayal by his brother. The most surprising thing about Mufasa is how conventional of a Disney film it feels like, as if Jenkins wasn't given all that much leeway. The only true mark of Jenkins' involvement is that he was able to bring his regular composer Nicholas Britell and DP James Paxton along. Paxton tries to give the film some continuity with its predecessor, at least visually, while Britell does an excellent job filling in for Hans Zimmer. However, the songs, which are partially done by Lin-Manuel Miranda, suffer as they don't have the same classic appeal as the songs done by Elton John and Tim Rice, which are classics for a reason, and were carried over from the cartoon to the original film. None of these new songs make a huge impression. However, while Jenkins' film is conventional, it's still relatively entertaining. The CGI is exquisite, and the voice cast is good, with Aaron Pierre, who recently blew me away in Rebel Ridge, making for an excellent young Mufasa. Kelvin Harrison Jr. is good voicing the conflicted and not yet evil Taka, while Donald Glover and Beyonce return in smaller roles as Simba and Nala, with Beyonce's daughter, Ivy Knowles-Carter, voicing their offspring, Kiara. Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner return as Pumbaa and Timon, with the movie framed as them listening to Mufasa's origin story with Kiara as it's told by John Connie's Rafiki. Meanwhile, Mads Mikkelsen voices Kyros, the leader of a pack of white lions who wants revenge on Mufasa, who was forced to kill his son in combat. Like the original Lion King remake, the film is relatively serious outside of the tacked-on Timon and Pumbaa comic relief, making me think some younger viewers might be a tad bored, although it's unlikely they'll be too scared with it, coming off a bit tamer and less sad than the original films. If you like the 2019 version of The Lion King or just like watching cute CGI lions and cubs, you might as well check it out over the holidays. While it's unlikely to make a huge dent in the face of competition from Sonic the Hedgehog 3, it's fine for families and entertaining enough. I may have even slightly preferred it to the 2019 Lion King, as at least it tells a marginally different story and doesn't rely totally on nostalgia for a much better film to entertain its audience. Even though I can't help but think Jenkins was capable of delivering a much better film than this were he given the chance. Hey, maybe one day we'll get A24's version of The Lion King directed by Barry Jenkins. I feel like that would have been a much more interesting movie, right? As it is, I give this one a 7 out of 10.